Gordon Smith is the first one on once again, as he often is. Good evening, you from a very pensive Denmark, he's saying. Yeah, I can imagine. All the European countries probably are. Happy Friday from chilly blue sky Seattle. Stingray saying hello from San Francisco. Paul Homchick here in the Bay Area. John Mangino, hello all. Hi, John. Christopher Gillingham in Leamington in the UK. Evening all. Rick Hayes from Chicago. Nice to have you back on, Rick. Blake Middleton up in the frozen iceboat world of Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes and probably not quite that many iceboats, Blake. Ted Ryman down in Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa. Stephen Frederick, all contacts with Russian sailing must be terminated. Well, we're going to talk about that, Stephen. Warren Schasser in Brisbane, where it's early in the morning.
Yes.
On what day is this? On Saturday. Corpus Christi, Fred Soward. Hello, Fred. Mary Jude Szymanski in Philadelphia. Let's get this one, number 499, on the road.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello from Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club in the Marina District here in San Francisco, a couple blocks away from Julia's home yacht club. I'm a proud member as well, the St. Francis Yacht Club. Julia, I trust you are well.
I am.
Any hot tips?
I wish I did. The world needs some hot tips at the moment.
Yeah, they do. And I think we're going to get some from Rodion. Sometimes some of his friends call him Rod. Rodion Luka, who is standing by patiently in Florida. He's not in the Ukraine, but he's the chairman of the Ukraine Sailing Federation. So we're delighted to have him with us today on TFE Live. I'm your host, Tom Ehman, but then most of you probably knew that. Welcome to our show number 499 for the 25th of February, 2022. Happy Friday, everybody. I didn't know how else to start this show. It's not a happy time, I'm sure, for many of you, and some people are more impacted than others, including and especially Rodion, who, as I said, is standing by in Florida. He'll be with us in a minute, but let's wish everybody a happy Friday. Our last show, Julia, before we go to 500.
Yes.
Which is going to be Monday, not Tuesday.
Oh.
We're going to promo that in a sec, but do you know what day it is today? There's your first and only clue. It is international, Skip the Straw Day.
That's a good idea.
And it is a good idea. I mean, some people complain about not us, but governments focusing on straws. But on the fourth Friday in February, the Coral Keepers ask you to consider a different way on National Skip the Straw Day. For thousands of years, humans have enjoyed slurping a refreshing beverage through a cylindrical tube. If Marvin Stone, the inventor of the first paper straw way back in 1888, were alive today, he might be shocked to know of the 5 large areas of the ocean called gyres, where plastic garbage collects. The sea's currents create vortices, isn't it, Julia?
I've always said vortexes.
If you went to Stanford, I would thought you would have said vortices.
I know.
Regardless, vortexes or vortices are trapping those plastics. In the collection are plastic drinking straws. So National Skip the Straw Day. Have a steel straw. Have a paper straw. We grew up with paper straws.
Drink out of the glass.
Or drink out of the glass. Well, that's how a margarita tasted pretty good the other night.
It sure did.
After our National Margarita Day.
We haven't had a real margarita for a long time.
I went over to St. Fancy and got margaritas for us.
Right.
It surprised you with the margarita.
Yes, indeed. It was a wonderful surprise.
Well, this is a strange day, and I was watching CNN here on the studio tube, but I couldn't take the distraction. And if something breaks, if something happens, such as I just hear from Sweden, and our friends, our foes in Denmark and Sweden, that NATO has, the Secretary General of NATO has just said that for the first time ever, the NATO forces have stood up on full-time alert. So if there's any other big announcements in this horrific situation going on, please give us a comment and we'll carry on. We'll include your comment. But just by way of what I said there in the first minute or two, next week we're actually going to do 3 shows. On Monday, special number 500 featuring the Kiwi Home Defense. We're going to look at all this. They're rolling out a big PR campaign, and we're going to look at the videos, the people who are supporting this from near and far, and we're going to have a FOSI forum via Zoom. So you can come on and say, yeah, I support the Kiwi Home Defense, or I disagree with it, or, you guys are croutons for doing 500 shows and you should do it. Seriously, I'd like you to come on, tell us how to do the show better, what improvements we can make. We will carry on at least for a while until, I fall down or Julia falls down, and we will carry on. And we'd like to improve. And that's why we'll have a Zoom cocktail party if you want. We'll all have a cocktail, I suppose, to celebrate our 500th show next Monday, not Tuesday. We will, however, also do a Tuesday show. We got Tom Hansen coming on talking to us about his initiative on the East Coast of getting kids onto offshore boats, which I also saw is going on in connection with St. Francis Yacht Club. That will be our show number 501 on Tuesday, and we will have our regular shows on Tuesday and Friday. Everything next week, as usual, at 2000 UTC, which this time of year is 12 noon Pacific time. Woohoo, Stingray says. The 500 show, amazing. Rick Hayes asking what time on Monday. We're just doing it at our normal time, 1200 Pacific Standard, 2000 UTC. Mark Curtis, occasionally the audio is breaking up on Facebook, switching to YouTube to try that. Matt Suzuki is in France. Yeah, I'm sure you're a little nervous in France. Well, all over. Stephen Frederick pointing out that, a great proportion, 80+% of all the plastic in the world's oceans probably come from Asia. That's probably true. Krasimir Naumov in Bulgaria is saying hi to all. Ken Saban in Toledo, Ohio. Hello, everyone from the western end of Lake Erie. No ice boating anywhere that I know of. Just saying. Well, apropos of that, we're also going to do an ice boating show in the first, we're not sure, but from Montana, from that big ice boating. What's that thing called that Aaron Burry is doing? Ice boating, not forum, ice boating something.
Yep.
And she's going to come on live and interview a couple people. I teed that up with her. And we're going to do a Q&A because there were so many questions about ice boating that came out of that show with Blake and Aaron. And they just don't know if they're going to be doing it on the first week of March, the second week of March, or the third week of March.
Or where they'll be doing it.
Well, they're doing it in Montana. And it's just which week is the best week for ice. So a busy, active March as we move forward with our show number 500 on Monday. 3 shows next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. We will have joining us today, for not only for his regular report, but John Emmett is coming back from the pub in time, he says. He's going to join us live after the segment with our esteemed FOSI Rodion Luka, who is standing by in Florida. That gets us to the starting line. This nice photo by Chris Ray here of St. Francis Yacht Club. We've talked about that once or twice just to give him a little credit. Emmett's on. That's good. And let's talk about Rodion for a sec. He is in Florida now. He was there sailing in the Luka 30s, the boat class that he's been developing. So I don't know, fortunately, is not in Ukraine. His kids are with him, he tells me. Rodion was born in 1972. He's a Ukrainian yachtsman. He's a merited sports master, silver medalist in the Olympic Games 2004 in the 49er class. Also a 49er class world champion in 2005, European champion and sportsman of the year 2005 in Ukraine. In August 2015, he was elected president of the Sailing Federation of Ukraine, and today he continues as the chairman of the Ukraine, I think it's called Sailing Federation. Please welcome to our show from St. Pete, Florida, Rodion Luka. Welcome, Rodion. I'm gonna call you Luka because I'm Luka devotee. I apologize. Rodion, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Hello.
You've been
everybody.
sailing down in Florida. You've been sailing the Luka 30, and that's the other reason I call you Luka, because you're calling it the Luka 30. But your new class of boat, and that's a cool class. And you sailed it in the Helly Hansen Sailing World Regatta, last weekend there, and you got another regatta coming up this weekend?
Yeah, next weekend, not this one. The next weekend it's gonna be in Tampa, Davis Island Yacht Club.
Oh, good.
It will be a race, and we run a L30 Grand Slam with a really good price. I can tell you later, but we have a fleet of 6 boats in United States, and we are quite proud what we have done, and we sold a couple of them. Probably 2 more boats will go to California and in nearest future, and we plan to go to Charleston Race Week and also Annapolis Helly Hansen Sailing World Series as well.
Let's talk about the boat. I've got some slides here. This is from the regatta in St. Pete last weekend. Tell us about the class.
Well, actually, I hope because of we made the last criteria, having a actively racing fleet in the second continent, which is in the States, and the class, we have about 34 boats already built, and hopefully the class association sent a submission to World Sailing to be recognized as international class. We've done it once, but the decision was deferred because the class rules was not as perfect with the standards. Right now, we work very hard with the equipment committee, and finally, we already finalized all small aspects in the class rule of one design. So I'm quite sure that World Council in the mid-year meeting will accept it.
Good. Well, congratulations on that. And now tell us a little bit about your sailing background. We'll talk some more about the Luka 30, but you were an avid 49er class sailor, an Olympic medalist, silver medalist in the 2004 games in Athens, and world champion in that class in 2005. How'd you get involved in sailing, first of all, and particularly the 49er?
Well, I started sailing back in 1983. My sister, I ended up in a sailing club for the club regatta, and then I went to we have a sports section in the club, and we started sailing. In 1988, I won the youth nationals of USSR Youth Nationals on cadet class, which is a double hand, very popular in the United Kingdom. And since then, I started thinking about the professional sailing, and I started preparing myself for the Olympics. And the first time I qualified for Olympics in 1996 for Savannah, and I was in the middle of the fleet because of my weight and so on. But after that, as soon as 49er came in the Olympic class, we make a lot of fundraising, and we found money to buy a 49er in 1997. Since then, I was sailing with my sparring partner from Laser. He was much better than me in strong wind. I was fast and light, and we worked hard. We trained a lot. We were lucky to get sponsors and to be competitive. And since 2001 and 2002, we were leading the world ranking list, and we got a good sparring partners from United Kingdom. Chris Draper went to Kiev, just to let you know, and we trained a lot with Nathan Nutrich as well. And then we became a really top level 49er sailors, and we were lucky to get a medal at the Olympics. And so then we won the Worlds, and after that I went to the Volvo Ocean Race in 2008 with Team Russia, actually, as a helmsman and trimmer. And after Volvo, I get involved with TP52, RC44, and big boat sailing. And then in some stage, I decided to be focused on my future career as trying to make some business. And we started running a lot of corporate events in 2010 in Kiev, because it was a good niche. And we did it quite very successfully. And from that time, I opened the sailing school as well, because we have a lot of people from corporate events who wants to go to sailing school. And then we opened the Yacht Club, which is acting right now in Kiev. It used to act right now before the war. using Plateau 25. We bought 10 boats, and we're still running very successfully club races, national event, and corporate events as well.
I don't think people realize how big a country until the invasion, I don't know what else to call it, this latest conflict, how big a country Ukraine is and how rich it is in terms of natural resources, and industrially how developed it is. I mean, you supply a lot of the world's xenon for making chips and a lot of natural resources, and it's the second largest country in Europe after Russia itself. Is that correct? I mean, you're something like the size of the upper Great Lakes and beyond.
Ukraine is bigger than Germany, bigger than France. The population of Ukraine is a bit more than 40 million people, and potentially, economically, this Ukraine has a really big potential. But and everything was happened in 2014 when actually a kind of revolution happened, which was also developed by Russian forces, and then the conflict started 8 years ago. So the country is big, the tradition of sailing is huge. In Soviet Union times, Ukrainian sailors was like most of the 70% of national team was from Ukraine, including 3 times Olympic gold medalist and silver medalist Valentin Mankin is one of the top. We have a Victor Kovalenko, who's now he's he used to be a head coach of Team Australia, a medal maker.
The so-called medal maker for Australia, Victor Kovalenko.
Yeah, and
you've also got a 470 medalist who I got to know during the Olympics.
Oh, the Ukrainian 470 girls was Sailors of the Year, recognized by World Sailing in 1997. Ruslana Taran, she twice bronze medalist in Olympics, and she's like 5 times world champion. And there was in 1997, she won all events in the world, and she was recognized as a Sailor of the Year. Ruslana Taran and Alena Pacholchik. And since the economy went bad, because you cannot be competitive in sailing unless you have a proper budget. So the times are changing, and we have in Ukraine right now a lot of people going sailing, and we have a few clubs in the country which you don't need to own the boat. You can have a club boat, and the boats are in very top level condition, and people can get involved, because these days
and that's a trend here in the States too, as you certainly know. And as I understand it, your 6 Luka 30s, the L30s that are here, are also charterable, right? You can charter one here in the U.S. and campaign it.
Yes, but not all of them. We have 2 of them already sold, and we're expecting another 2 coming by the end of April. So there will be 8 boats in the States. The idea, because these boats, the reason why is these boats will have the best return on investment, because this boat's not the poorly racer. It's a really good racing boat, but of course, it's not a racing machine. This boat has a trim top. This boat has a backstay. You can place it with attention on the forestay, and you can sail this boat as double-handed in short races, leeward, windward courses, and also offshore. So, and that's why, and plus, moreover, one day you can sell this boat as a family boat, because it has a really nice accommodation inside. It has a proper head, and this boat is perfectly fit for any corporate events. And the most important, this boat is really good for youth offshore training. We have 8 sails on board, so people can go for a sail change. They know how to do it. Now you can see the picture with a trailer. So this boat is really easy to trailer, lowest cost of maintenance, and that's probably the most sustainable boat, which I know, who has a category A boat which is trailable, with a lifting keel, lifting rudders, trim top on the back side of the keel fin, and carbon rig. It's a deck step. You can serve this boat with no crane, and that's why I believe in the future of this class and worldwide.
What does that mean, a Class A boat?
Category A in the European certification, it's mean you can cross the ocean on this boat, or you can go racing in Sydney Hobart or transatlantic. And this is optional things. You will have slightly longer, 1 foot longer keel fin, so the boat will stay in the trailer 33 centimeters higher. But if you tell me which any other boats are trailable and category A, which you allow to compete in offshore events, then I'll be nicely surprised. And
Luka, who are these guys?
Well, this is a European Championship in 2019. It was in Lake Garda. You can see designer Andre Justin from left, then Joseph Pla.
He also designed the RC-44, right?
Correct. And that's how the Russell recommended him as a designer. So that's why I contacted him, and I think he did a really good job. And Joseph Pla is a president of the European Sailing Federation. That's how we get the status of European Championship, because the class was not international yet. So we did it under the patronage of the European Sailing Federation. And then we have a guy from a club in Gargnano. I forgot his family name, but yeah.
Gargnano on Lago di Garda, on Lake Garda.
Correct.
Gargnano,
correct.
the town, yep.
So we run events in Europe on the lakes and also on the sea. The next European Championship will be in San Remo, October 12th, 16th of October.
Rodion, who's the guy with the long hair on the right?
It's me. I have a long hair.
we only ask questions that we know the answers to on the show. Not always, but yeah, it's a terrific job that you've done. You also designed it in part. You thought it could be the double-handed boat for the Olympics, the double-handed. If it was dual gender, wasn't that one of your intentions?
Well, when the design came out, first we did not knew at those times that this discipline may be an Olympics. But by the way, I just want to tell you, we have a driving wheels on such a small boat, and it has a lot of reason why. Is because from corporate events, we understand we have much more people understanding sailing when they have instead of tiller, they have a wheel. So they understand how to drive a boat, and we get infected more people of sailing because of these driving wheels. And to be honest, yeah, that's why people think it's not good, but I'm telling you, it saves a lot of place in cockpit, and it makes understandable our sport much more.
I totally agree, and Julie, as you know, I have long been an advocate for the America's Cup to have boats with wheels instead of tillers.
Yeah.
And other match racing boats, because, as you say, corporates, non-sailors understand. I mean, it's like I think it's it's a bit of an exaggeration perhaps, but one of the reasons I thought that the Cup in '87 in Fremantle, you had two big guys, Ian Murray, Dennis Conner, great big guys, behind the wheel of those boats and steering through the big seas, but they were wheel boats, the old 12s, and it looked great. And people could say, oh, God, he's back there. I'd love to be back there on that wheel, steering that boat through the seas and up. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, and plenty of small reasons. And when we did the design, we did not thought at that time about the Olympic discipline. So when World Sailing announced a tender, what kind of boat can be involved in 2019 actually, could be a boat for double-hand offshore World Championship, we applied and to provide 20 boats for the Worlds. And you remember 2019 when it was a World Sailing meeting in Sarasota, they did announce it. And yeah, we started preparing for 2020, and unfortunately the COVID came. But we managed to do it together with Riccardo Simoneschi, the Europeans, in Genoa. Actually, we did it twice. And then because of the Olympic Committee canceled this discipline, International Olympic Committee canceled it. Right now, there is much less interest in this discipline, but it's still some. So,
well, listen, there's a lot of people, and particularly here in California, as I'm sure you know, particularly in Southern California, where the Olympics will be in 2028. There are a lot of people here, John Sangmeister, various others, who are going to push real hard to get, and I think also Well, I won't say who else because I shouldn't, but I'll let them speak for themselves. But I think there are other senior series people in the sport in this country as well as in world sailing who will make another push for some kind of an offshore, a small offshore boat like the Luka 30, like something.
If it's come back, we will be ready for it. We will be ready as an international class, and we will try our best to do the Transpac in 2023 from LA to Honolulu. So
Nice.
we'll try to make something happen like that. And it all depends of many aspects, but I think the class will have a future because it has 3 lives. We can use it on different this boat is perfect for match racing, actually. It's really nice. And when you remove stanchions and lifelines, so you can sail with 4 people on it, and it's going to be nice. Imagine when you remove lifelines and stanchions. So you also can remove backstays, as this boat has 30-degree angular spreaders. It's really easy to handle without backstays. The backstays you need it only to play with the tension on a forestay.
Where is the boat built?
Well, the project belongs to the company L30 in Estonia, and the production, we have 2 productions. One of them is in Ukraine, which is currently today it was closed because of the war. And we do have a second set of molds which built from the same plugs. It's located in Slovenia, so I'm going to fly in a couple of weeks to Slovenia to set up a previous production was an Ocean Tech, which is not bad, and we will open the second one in 2 months' time. We will be able to start building more boats in Europe.
Okay, before we get to the invasion and the war, we want to, especially with your hat on as the chairman of the Ukrainian Sailing Federation, a lot of questions. Anybody has a question for Rodion, please chime in. Gordon Smith says it would be interesting to see it being match raced. Krasimir Naumov, who's in Bulgaria, you must know Krasimir, is saying, sorry, where can I check the price for the Luka 30? You have an answer for that?
Yeah. So before the discipline was here, we were trying to keep the prices low, but right now retail price of this boat is the same as J88. So it's around 165,000 in the base. As soon as you get navigation equipment, autopilot, and actually we have a lot of things to play with. You can connect your iPhone together with the boat, and you can use your iPhone as a remote control of the boat. You can drive your boat with one finger. So there's a lot of things like that. The full price with all those options with 8 sails, navigation, safety equipment, interior, removable interior, it's around 135 or 235.
200, so 180, about the same as a J88.
Correct.
So more questions. Thanks, Krasimir, for that question. Stingray saying the L30 looks really sweet. And J. Frederick Bland is saying, real sailors have big tillers. Julia, give him the finger shake. J. Frederick Bland down in Texas. By the way, Ukraine is about the same size as Texas, isn't it? One of our Fozy commented on that. How many people in Texas? You have 30 million people in Ukraine? How many people?
40.
It's 44.
44.
Right now.
I wonder what...
now there's a lot of people moving out of the country because...
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go look at some other questions and comments. Don Lunabo says hi from up in Sonoma. Julie Ahrens is checking in from snowy Lake Erie, not in the lake, I hope. Lake effect snow. Maura Stevens up in Nova Scotia. Gordon Smith says our favorite heavy lift aircraft, the Antonov, comes from Ukraine. We're going to talk about that, Gordon, in a sec. Mark Husted wants us to ask if Yuri Firsov is Ukrainian. Do you know a Yuri Firsov?
I know him very well. He's a Russian sailor. He's a good friend of mine, yeah.
Mark Husted is a Fozy in Sweden, and he's the one who told me he's been watching the war and the invasion very carefully, and all of the Fozy. I've been getting input from people all night, as we were very grateful. Stingray asks, this is a friend of ours up in Seattle who's just retired from Boeing. He's saying, are the lakes in Ukraine frozen for much of the year? Or not much of the year, but are they frozen in the winter? Is there any ice boating? And I wanted to ask, because I know there's a lot of ice boating in Poland, and Poland is just, to the west of you. And I wanted to ask, is most of the sailing on open water, or is it on lakes, or both?
Both. We have a Black Sea. We used to have Crimea, which is all around. We have Azov Sea. We have a Black Sea, open waters, and plenty of sailing on Dnieper River.
Yep.
Whereas we have around 6 water reservoir, and that's where it used to grow. In Kiev, we have a huge river with a big water reservoir, and so it's plenty of place to sail in Ukraine. And Ukraine did twice Whitbread race in Saint Spasisi. The key crew members was from Ukraine,
Indeed.
Ukraine. And then we did 1994. Another Whitbread.
Mm.
Then so the plenty of place of sailors. We have a lot of sailors, and just one thing I wanted to mention. If we were going to start talking about invention, in 2019 World Sailing Conference in Sarasota, Ukrainian Sailing Federation put a submission to exclude Russian Yachting Federation from membership of World Sailing, because they start running and they were trying to make a national level events on occupied territories.
Mm.
And it was a lot of political talk. And finally, the Russian Yachting Federation agreed.
By occupied territories, you mean in the Crimea?
Yeah. Crimea Island. It's not recognized by EU that it's Russia. So it's Ukrainian Sailing Federation territory. And with the racing rules of sailing, they're not allowed to host any sailing events. I mean, I'm talking about the national level sailing events or international events without permission. And of course, we could not give this permission because otherwise we would push Putin, his dictatorship strategy, to prove to the world that they can occupy a country and run in sports events.
Well, now I'm being told here by some of the FOSI that actually Ukraine, as we used to call it in Germany and Spain, I guess, is twice the size of Texas. Thank you, Ben Remacher. Normally he's up in BC, in British Columbia. Clark Chapin is saying there's 30 million people in Texas, approx, and John Emmett is saying 44 million in Ukraine, now probably 39 is people. I know they've got a terrible situation with the people leaving, trying to get into Poland and elsewhere. In fact, one of the notes which was disturbing here, Julia, was I saw this morning, is that the Biden administration is talking about taking people off our southern border and moving into Poland to help process people, as if we don't have problems here on our southern border.
I can't believe that.
I'm telling you, that's what I saw. German Garmin add-ons. Yeah, okay, we're talking about back on the boat. J. Frederick Bland, population of Texas, 20,500,000 and about 15 million cattle. Well, that's like counting sheep in New Zealand. Don Lunabos, Yalta. How is the sailing in Yalta?
Well, Yalta is now, it's occupied territory since 2014. And there's not much sailing there. Most of the sailing in Crimea happening in Sevastopol. They have a big harbor.
Big naval base, right?
In Yalta, a Navy base as well. In Yalta, there is no really good harbor. There is like a small port, but there is no place to keep boats because everywhere is like, there is no harbors.
One of the questions, and that's a good question, I guess. Alan Long is saying, what is the correct pronunciation, Kyiv or Kiev? We'd always pronounce it Kiev, and now we see the newscasters are all saying Kyiv instead of Kiev.
If in the old Soviet Union pronunciation, it was spelling like K-I-E-V.
Yes.
Yep. And latest one, because with Ukrainian accent, we call Kyiv.
K-Y.
K-Y-E-V.
E-I-I-V. E-I, yeah. Okay, so Ukrainians actually call it Kyiv, and the Russians call it Kiev. Más o menos.
Oh, no, they also said Kiev, but yeah.
Okay, what other comments? Krasmir, we can do such a great regattas in the Black Sea with Ukraine and Bulgaria. Sadly, these war endeavors deprives us of the option, or at least for the minute. Clayton, there's a comment. Texas,
Yeah.
30 million people, 300 million guns. Well, speaking of guns, I guess they're handing guns out on this to the population, arming the population as the Russians apparently are closing in on your hometown. Is Kiev your hometown?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can see what I've got up here on the next slide, and that is President Putin. So we'll switch into that segment, sadly, that we really have to talk about and want to talk about and get your views on this invasion. You call it a war invasion. You have family and friends there, obviously. How are people doing? What do you think is happening?
Well, I know exactly what's happening because every minute I'm online and watching the local news. Have a lot of phone calls with my friends, and I feel myself sorry that I'm not there. But right now, it's impossible to get to the country because there is no flights, no civilian flights at all. And I was planning to go back in the middle of March, but now I'm trying to see what's going to happen. And it's a really, to be honest, it's a big problem. It's not a joke. They have already 2,800 Russians killed. We had around 80 tanks was destroyed, around 7 or 8 planes and helicopters, but they still have so much forces, and they're still coming and coming and coming. And I'm really afraid that it could be the start of the Third World War. Really.
Well, there's a lot of people who are afraid of that,
Right.
obviously.
Obviously.
Do you think he will stop at the Dnieper? Do you think he will stop in?
I think he will not stop. At the craziest guy in the world, he is a terrorist, and the whole world needs to be ready for the Third World War. And you don't need to be afraid. They are not as strong as they looks like. The economy of Russia is very low, and it's really to destroy. And the whole world needs to help to destroy the Russian economy. This is the only way to stop this guy. And I spoke with Russian people. They still do not understand because they have completely different propaganda. And we all wait when the NATO will help us.
Yeah, Krasimir Naumov in Bulgaria is saying it is a full-blown war in capitals, he's saying. Some politicians continue to dance around it, calling it operation and situation. Peter Wharton is asking, how do we support our Ukrainian friends and especially the sailors? What can we do? Alan Long's agreeing with you. Putin's a crazy man. What can we do to support, first of all, Ukrainian sailors? What can we do to help you?
Well, to help me, please help me to develop the class, because we will try to set up a production, everything done in Ukraine, first of all. And secondly, we need to help, probably like I've seen your slides from the Nord Stream race. This is a very political event. And I heard the good news from Minister of Denmark, the Culture Minister of Denmark, that they're gonna have no deal anymore with any Russian sailing clubs. We just need to explain the Russians does not, the population of Russia, they're not a bad people, they're good people that they do not understand. We need to explain them what's going on all social media, and we need support of Russian people to go on the streets and to ask their government stop the war. Well,
there were quite some demonstrations in Russia yesterday, and I guess hundreds, maybe over 1,000 people arrested. How do you know in the fog of war? How do you believe any of this? But apparently Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Husted, is reminding us, and thanks again, Mark, for passing that info on this morning, even before we saw it on the news here, that he is not pissing around. NATO has stood up for the first time, all their forces. And it's been interesting to talk to our friends and family, both here in the States, because as recently as the day before yesterday, people were saying, well, he's not really going to invade. John Emmett on here called it. He almost called it to the day. He said, no, he is going to invade.
Yeah.
When I talked to you a few days ago, Rodion, you said, no, this is serious. And I said, well, will you come on the show and explain it to us all from your perspective, which is unique, not only as a sailor Ukrainian, but the president of the Ukrainian Sailing Federation. So I appreciate your coming on. And if you're just joining us live from Florida, thank goodness. I guess you told me the other day that the good news is you're in Florida, and your two kids are in Florida, right?
Yeah, yeah. My kids was born in the United States, and actually they go to school, to high school right now, and well, right now they're citizens, a dual citizen, and of course I'm happy that my son is here. They
Yes.
finally.
Yeah. So the good news, you said, the good news is we're safe and sound in the States and Florida. The bad news is we're not in Ukraine to help.
Well, we're gonna help some. I will try to fly to Ukraine in March, later March, and to see what I can do. But the situation getting worse and worse every hour, really.
Mm.
If Ukraine will be able to defend the capital within a couple of more days, then probably it will be changed, because they wanna get it like within 2 weeks. But I still cannot believe that they will be able to hold it.
Yes.
Even if the army will come to the town, everybody is against them. This is completely different Ukraine what it was 8 years ago. Now, February 2022, not 14, whereas the army is much stronger right now, more organized, and everybody, like 99% of people, are against Putin, which is in 2014 because of propaganda. We get a bunch of people who were believing to Kremlin. Right now, it's a terrorist, so we need to fight, and people will do it because they have nothing to lose.
Well, let's go to some more of the questions and comments. J. Frederick Bland down in Texas. Russia will not last in the UKR in Ukraine. He thinks that you all will conduct guerrilla war. A lot of our commentators are saying that. Replying to Alan Long, people are comparing Putin now to Adolf Hitler, and that he's just really mentally lost the plot. The UKR citizenship is armed. Another comment from J. Frederick Bland. Mark Husted apologizing for swearing. Some other comments here. I want to go back up that we've missed. Krasimir Naumov is saying it has been stated from Bulgaria, from the Bulgarian government, that all refugees from Ukraine will be welcomed into the country as long as they can come here. There are summer resorts being prepared to host them while the crisis continues. I was criticized on Tuesday's show, and I just to say to all of you who are watching, I was criticized for bringing this up the same way we brought COVID up, when before it was a big deal. Oh yeah, COVID's going to be over and they're going to flatten the curve and it'll be gone by Easter. I'm sorry to say it, but I think the guy is nuts, and I think this is not going to be, here and there, here and done and dusted in a couple of weeks. I think we do have a serious situation, and we owe it to ourselves to inform ourselves and to see what the impacts are going to be on our sport, which we will get to in a moment. So thank you for all of your comments, and especially your concern for Rodion's fellow Ukrainians, which is a great sailing country.
Yes.
To be sure. Jay Rendell, as soon as the Russians do anything to a NATO country, it will become a war of all the Article, 5, against all the NATO countries will come together. Hamish Ross, who of course is a lawyer, good lawyer down in New Zealand, he's saying file war crimes charges in the International Court at Den Haag, at The Hague, the Nuremberg of our times, and on and on and on. There's a lot of other comments that we'll follow. Julia.
Yeah. One of the themes that is heartening is that while the Russian forces may come into Ukraine easily, almost nobody believes that they can hold it.
Yeah,
but how long that's going to last, I don't know.
How would you know? And I don't know. And Rodion, it seems like they're very, very tough and very strong. And I think to the credit of your government, your president, he said, I'm here, and I know I'm target number one. My family's target probably number two. But unlike the Afghanistan leadership, who flew the coop as soon as the Americans left. So I do think, but how would you know? I mean, the Russians are coming in with just an astonishing force, and we'll see. But lots of other comments. I want to go, not because we're not expert here, but I want to talk about what the impact is to our sport. But a lot of you are commenting, Ed Worley, this war could have economic ripples throughout throughout the entire world. Absolutely file with The Hague, war crimes, genocide, it's all there. J. Frederick Bland reading up from the bottom. Tiered DeYoung, hello Tiered. Under threat of nuclear war, Putin will continue expansion in other countries bordering Russia unless he is stopped. and on and on. I'm not going to keep going, but all I can say is that as a de Tocquevillian and as an American, I hope Europe stands up and doesn't wait for the states to do it all, or to do the to do the bulk of it, because Europe, Germany, France, Spain, I think we're all in this together, and we all have got to stand up. And I hope NATO does stand up if, in fact, he goes beyond Ukraine. Ukraine's not a NATO country, of course, but okay, let's go. Go ahead, please.
One thing I wanted to tell you that sometimes when we go racing, we have a bad day. Think about the real life, and this is the real bad day when there is a war.
Yes, sir.
And if you have a bad race and you finish not as good as you wanted, the life is still beautiful and it's all good.
Well, that's Clark Chapin's point. Remember, it took 10 years for the Soviets to decide to withdraw from Afghanistan. It took us 20 years, and Joe Cool is reminding us, as we all know, China is with Russia, and that's one of the reasons we've got John Emmett coming on after Rodion leaves, because John Emmett, of course, who's married to a Chinese and has some not only European perspective, he's been coaching Finnish sailors, been coaching Romanian sailors, and he's married to a Chinese lady, the famously good sailor Lily Zhu, who is a gold medalist. So let's talk some more specifically about what's going on, Rodion. We know about this guy and whether or not he is crazed. Bravo, Rodion, Clark Chapin is saying. And replying, Putin's a bully, Ken Sabin is saying. Krasimir is saying, check the stock market, VTM, Gazprom, Lukoil stock plunged 14. Yeah, well, and the ruble is way down. But remember, he's being backed up by China. So we'll see how that goes. Now, this is interesting because one of the Fozy, I won't mention him. He's on here. He may want to put the comment. But just think if World Sailing had done this deal had continued the deal with Gazprom. Remember that?
Yes.
And we won't even mention the former Secretary General CEO,
non-sailing
CEO, Andy Hunt. And thank God we got rid of him, all of us, everybody, and thank God we got rid of that president. And now, thank God we've gotten rid of Gazprom out of the sport, although they're still involved, and we're going to come to that in a sec. Julie Ahrens is saying he has to be stopped now. Putin will not stop unless NATO and the U.S. stop him, Julie Ahrens is saying. I don't see anybody on here yet supporting Gazprom and Mr. Putin. Let's talk for a minute about the implications, because, okay, this is a minor implication, but nonetheless, these Antonov planes are flying yachts around, including America's Cup yachts. Now, this is the big one. This is the big AN-225, the Antonov AN-225. And people think these are Soviet or Russian planes. They're not. They're Ukrainian planes, right?
Yeah, it is.
What's the airport just, I guess, north of Kyiv? It's called something, starts with a G, and some people call it the Antonov Airport.
It is an Antonov Airport, but it also was used basically from Antonov planes and also some military planes. And the day before yesterday, the first things the Russian wanted to get there. So they sent around 30 helicopters, and they get around 200 people was there. And right now they're all dismissed. But I heard from a friend of mine that this plane was damaged, and I'm not sure if it's in a good condition right now.
Well, we heard press reports yesterday. And I was going to say, well, in fact, I put this in at first because I'd heard that this plane was damaged. I guess they've flown the other ones out, the smaller Antonovs that do fly America's Cup boats around. They're probably all in service anyway. But then I read overnight, and I haven't seen anything more this morning. I heard that this plane was not blown up, that the plane does exist, but it's the only one in the world. And it's just I don't know if the smaller Antonovs are there. What are they called? The 125s that do fly boats around, including and especially America's Cup boats, and that could have an impact on the upcoming Cup. Don Lunabos is saying, respect to you, Rodion, the world has your back. And many other comments as well. What about...
Ben Remacher says the world needs to get serious about financial crimes. confiscate the billions in oligarch money taken out of Russia.
Well, what do you think of that, Rodion? Because, we lived in Europe. I did. And my wife, Leslie, and daughter, Meg, we lived in Germany and Spain for almost 20 years, 18 years. And so I understand the SWIFT system, the SWIFT banking system. And because that's how you move money around, and you have to have the SWIFT code for banking transfers. And, people in the States still write paper checks. I wrote a check out to St. Francis Yacht Club yesterday, Julia.
Wow.
And nobody does that in Europe. No one has used paper checks. Okay, you can get a Euro check and yada, yada, yada. But what about the SWIFT system? And what are the implications for you and others if the U.S. goes after, and any of those that are on here commenting? Should the U.S. and I guess France and Germany did not want to put a sanction on the SWIFT system vis-a-vis Russia yesterday. That's why Biden has held off. Is that true?
From my information, Cyprus and Italy and one more country, which I don't remember, were against. But the sooner the SWIFT system will be disconnected, it will help. But not as much, because the Russians, they build already their own system, but I don't know for their all local banks. So somehow Joe Biden yesterday said it won't help as much as they did now, but I think the stronger economy sanction will go, the sooner they will stop fighting.
Yeah.
Really, as soon as possible.
Yes.
Well, the problem is, and here are the comments, Stingray is saying the concern about going after SWIFT system is how devastating it will be to ordinary Russians, yes, and also others. John Emmett making the observation, we all are aware, Italy is very dependent on Russian gas. I said on the show on Tuesday that Russia is just a big gas station. And it's a gas station for much of Europe, at least from Germany and north and east. And Jibo is saying no entrance in any sailing event from any Russian billionaires who are linked to any kind of Putin's business network should be accepted anymore. Krasimir is saying SWIFT measures will also have considerable recoil too. I mean, this is the other problem, is what happens if you do some of these things. What response is going to come from Russia, including, and I can't believe he'll use even tactical nukes, but who knows? How do you know? Alan Long is saying, I'm curious as to sanctions in the Scorpios and Comanche programs. We're going to come to that in a minute. Ben Remacher is saying, dismantling SWIFT disrupts reputable business. The target needs to be the buddies of Putin.
Can that be done? You say that?
No. I mean, you turn the SWIFT off, and I mean, it's just like turning the internet off. But I don't know that much. Well, I do know a fair bit about it. But Alan Long is saying, replying to Stingray, the dilemmas of war, collateral damage. Yeah, well, that is the problem, and it's got to be measured. Okay, tell us about this guy, your president, Vladimir. It's interesting how close his name is to Putin's first name. Vladimir, is that how you pronounce it?
Vladimir Zelensky.
Vladimir.
Right now you have a spelling on Ukrainian, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Is that Russian spelling or is that Ukrainian spelling?
Volodymyr, it's Ukrainian.
Okay,
and
good.
Vladimir, it's Russian.
Okay, so it is the same name, but just with different spellings. Zelensky. Now, do you know the gentleman?
Well, not personally, but he is very, very popular. He was, we got his friend, bought him a certificate to my sailing school, but he never showed up before he was elected as a president. And right now, I'm really proud what is he's doing. And I think we don't see any problems right now. He's doing very good, and his team, they're all still in Kiev, and well, I can't say anything bad about it.
How about people who say that he is an autocrat, that he has jailed his political opposition and shut down the press and is not much better than Putin in that respect?
Well, right now is a war, and there is no time for any political things inside of the country. What he's doing good. I don't see any problem, and I can't say what any other people say.
What does it mean, martial law? I mean, I know what in theory it means, but what is the current condition? You're talking to your friends and family there. What is the latest that you're hearing? What are people apparently hiding out down in the underground under Kyiv, spending the night there? What's going on?
Well, some people who are afraid of they go in, they build in the big buildings like apartments.
Mm-hmm.
They go underground, especially in the center part of this town, because they believe it could be bombed. There is a chance. People who lives outside in private houses, they still not going. But lots of, we have an underground metro in the city, in Kharkiv, and people are going for sleep there. So everybody who wants to be there, it's open.
Okay, well, more comments pouring in here. Jibo, I'm not sure who Jibo is, by the way. His full name, but welcome again. We've been on here the last three shows anyway. Swift is the ultimate gun when they sit together with Russia to negotiate. What else do we have in the pockets? Nothing, except guns and bombs, which will lead to World War III. There's a lot of people that agree with that, probably. Mark Husted replying to Julie Ahrens. Julie Ahrens, Biden won't do that, and the EBC, European Bank, won't do it. The UK is demanding to close SWIFT on Russia. Yeah, I saw Bojo say that, Boris Johnson say that this morning. Krasimir is saying 10,000 Chechens went to Kiev. You have picked that up yet? Have you picked up on that?
There is this information, which is not really confirmed. Maybe yes, but I heard from Anton Gerashenko, actually, his advisor of Ministry of Police. So
yes, Interior, yeah.
They just it's not true information. That's what he mentioned. But
it's not true that the Chechens are coming.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They might will come. There's plenty of people going there. Right now, it's the first wave of non-very professional army, and we're expecting the second wave coming, which will be even worse. So more prepared. We have a lot of the Ukrainian army get a lot of soldiers from Russia. They get to interview them.
Yes.
And we can see that this is not really experienced fighters. So they expect the second wave there.
Jibo is saying, hi, Tom, we met now. Remember Garrett Batamulik, United Internet, UITG, United Internet Team Germany, which was the German entry in the Cup in Valencia 2007. Monica Diaz is afraid the world is leaving Ukraine alone. Monica's in Spain. Krasimir, I really hope it's not true. I think he hopes that you are getting support from outside. Matt Suzuki, who has spent a lot of time in Moscow, and I've known Matt for a long time, and he lives in France now. All French media confirming the Chechen involvement. Mark Husted replying to Monica Diaz, Monica, the EU can't intervene because that would start a war. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation, obviously, and we'll see how this plays out. You've got a lot of support from any number of our FOSI. Here are just two who I noticed on their Facebook pages who were putting comments on my page early this morning after I'd said you were coming on the show. Mark, sorry, I've spelled your name wrong with an extra A. It's not Merrick, it's Mark Reed. I talked to Mark Julia this morning. Mark is doing some really good investigative reporting for us, as I said on the show on Tuesday, and he will be Mark Orton Reed, not Merrick. Sorry, Mark. And Sandeep Sander, who's in Denmark, also, and many others are adding the Ukrainian flag just as a show of support to your cause. And if you're just joining us, we are with our new friend. We've talked for a long time. It's actually the first time we've met face-to-face. We've been trying to get Rodion and Luka onto the show for quite some time. He is the president of the Ukrainian Sailing Federation. He's an Olympic silver medalist in the 2004 Games and has developed this cool new boat called the Luka 30, the L30, which is an offshore one-design boat that's really quite trailerable and quite a cool-looking boat. And people who have sailed it, such as Dave Ullman, I think, have said awfully nice things about it. You had Ullman sailing it in St. Pete at the Helly Hansen Regatta, right?
Correct, and he won it. And he liked the boat, and he was with his son. It's a really good boat. We have the youngest competitor in the fleet, which is 14 years old, and sailors, which is 75 years old in the fleet.
Nice. Yeah.
You can have like 3 generations on the boat with your family. That's Dave was unbelievable. He is really was very consistent. Out of 5 races, he won only one race, and the rest of them was second very consistently, and he's good.
Rodion, we'll let you go. We appreciate
Yeah.
very much your coming on, and you got support from the Fozy all over the place.
And you gained a lot more from today. You did a very good job.
Good point, Julia. And I think not only for Ukraine, but for your class and for helping us understand the situation. Please do keep us posted. And we hope to see you again, get you back on the show sometime soon. Stay safe, and I hope best wishes to not only your friends and family, but everybody in your home country.
Thank you, Tom and Julian. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rodion. Thank you very much. Okay, well, that if you just joined us, that's the last hour has been very interesting. Yes, this is a sailing show, but this war, this invasion, is going to impact all of us, just like COVID did. And as I said, 15 minutes ago, I got a lot of criticism for dealing with COVID, but thank goodness we had experts.
Yes.
An expert in particular, but several, including and especially Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who came on and has kept us all posted, and I think in many respects kept us safe, or those of us that got COVID, not me, not you, Julia, but also gave us some tips and some confidence about how to proceed, including and especially within the sport, given the last 2 years of Crutonicism.
Go sailing.
Yeah, stay safe, go sailing.
Yeah.
And Julia, this is not just today and here today and gone tomorrow, I'm afraid.
I know. But I really love that the Fozys get together, and I really love the fact that we have genuine contact with genuine people.
Indeed.
So we have some good looks of what's really going on.
Indeed. Well put. Tier DeYoung saying, thank you, Rodion, be safe. Blake Middleton, likewise, bravo from Stingray. Yeah, a lot of thanks pouring in. Thank you guys that you give this very important topic room to be discussed. There is a lot of Russian money in the sailing game. There's a lot of ice boating done in that area. That's Ken Saban saying that. And I am going to work now to get our next, we've got another live guest coming on, as I said at the top of the show. And he is going to come on here with any luck. And I'm going to first play his report. That, of course, is John Emmett. Play his report, and then he's going to come on live via Skype. And he's going to give us some additional perspectives, including and especially from a sailing angle. So take this report now, the report he submitted this morning in our regular segment called Train Hard, Sail Easy, Master Mentor John Emmett. And then we'll have him hopefully on live via Skype from the UK in a few moments.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Another very windy day in the UK. There's a joke about having lots of different weather, and today we've had sunshine. We've also had hailstorms, and I think that's keeps sailing interesting. But you can probably tell from my background behind, I'm at a football club. I've been accompanying Lily, and it's really interesting to look at media for the other sports. And media is a really big part of our life. Tom actually asked me to comment about the situation in the Ukraine, and people will be quite surprised who know me well, but I really didn't know what to say. So I think maybe I'm better off focusing on sailing, and inclusivity is a very important thing, and I'm very happy to help Lily with her media work that she's doing now. And it's just eye-opening to come up here to a Premiership football club and just see what an effort they go to their media. And I think that's why people are able to be professional in professional leagues, and that's why there's so much money in these sports which just promote themselves really well. And for me, it's been a bit of an eye-opener, and I think it's something that we need to take forward into sailing. So yeah, sorry Tom, not that much to comment about in the Ukraine. I just hope we can all keep on sailing, and I hope everyone enjoys the show. I'll see you later.
Well, that's John, and as we speak, I'm teeing him up here on Skype. John,
it's a great picture of him.
Great picture of him and his wife, Lily. I think she's back from. Let me see if I get John on here. I've got him.
Yay!
I just want to improve the picture a bit here, John. Hang on. Let me see if I can improve your picture while we're at it. And John, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. You probably can't improve the picture that much. I just need a shave as always.
Well, it has nothing to do with the show. I'm just trying to get your image here. Doing this on the fly is always an issue. But we will get you here one way or another. I've got part of it. There we go, Skype local, but it would be nice to get Emmett's Skype. We do have John there, as you can see, but we got a lot of other stuff, and we'll see if we can get that fixed up. John, welcome. John Emmett, who's our regular. Nice report again, as usual. I don't know why this is all crutonic. John, let me try again, okay?
Okay.
I've got you there. That's a good look. And let's see if I can get Emmett now. Turn off the NDI. This is because I had Zoom going before for Rodion, so now I've got to get you on via
Skype.
Via Skype, which is always a better option.
Yeah.
So we try to use Skype because it is indeed a better option. Technically. And John, we may just go with, what we've got here. I've got Zoom interfering. We'll get rid of Zoom, and I think that will improve. That will improve the situation here.
Yes.
John, let me call you back on Skype, okay?
Okay, I'll hang up.
You hang up, and I'll call you back. So you're watching the sausage get made here as we're going to get Emmett on, hopefully by Skype. That's a good sound.
Yep.
That's progress. Now let's see if we can get John on the rest of the way here.
I'm sorry to be awkward.
No, it's not your fault. It's having done it on Zoom. And now we may go with what we've got, John. We may go with what we've got.
Mark Houston said he looked better in the wild.
It was really windy. And it was, a real eye-opener as well when you look at the media. So the four girls, I guess I'll talk where you.
Yeah, please do.
That Lily talked to. I mean, it's just amazing. You've got, people from France, people from Wales, people from England, people from South Korea, people from China, all being part of one team, and they're united by sport. And yeah, I think that's a really special thing.
It is.
It's no surprising that football's so popular in the UK when you see the effort that it's put into. One of the things I like to talk about, sort of a hopefully happier thing on the 8th of March, is women in sport, which I'm very passionate about.
John, Lily is back?
Yes. Yeah,
how was Beijing? She was commentating at the Winter Olympics.
Yes. Yeah. And as I said, I was, very. I think there's an unwritten rule book that the conflict was not going to start during the Olympics, but start immediately after. And I think it's like a container ship. It takes such a long time for these things to build up momentum, and then it's almost impossible for it to change direction. I mean, we live in a very different world in 2022, but the troop builds up, and the logistics and all the rest of it, it's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. So it's hard to see how it wasn't going to happen. Especially in Eastern countries, you sort of have this really important idea of face. I just couldn't see the back down. Well, is that an improved look for me? That happens to me on the Restart Sailing show a lot.
Well, that's a better look, but yeah, John, I'm going to go back to
Mark Houston.
Yeah,
said probably better to sync with WhatsApp.
No, Mark, you technical guys. We'll get him on here. I'll just go back to the less great approach, and we'll get it here. We will get it here. This is why we don't normally bring people on in the middle of the show, because it is so.
No, I think it's good because it absolutely proves, Tom, that it's a live show.
It is.
I'm sure I do deliberate mistakes myself sometimes just to prove it's live.
That's not a bad idea. What's interesting to me is that the audience reaction is, even if it's the same sort of picture, is much higher with a unscripted approach, because it lends.
I'm a bit worried when you say that, Julia, because I'm doing a presentation tomorrow, I think, at 10:15, because the person who's doing it keeps on testing positive for COVID. So unless he miraculously recovers tomorrow, and I got sent a whole script, and I don't think I've ever done anything in my life by script. Normally I just ad lib it, so hopefully it's going to work out.
Do you have to do it by script?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I feel bad because they spent a lot of time preparing the script. But
I know.
At the same time, probably they just want it to be as good as possible.
No offside opinions.
Well, God knows we've got your vision now and audio, but God knows we are not scripted here.
I know.
But the first thing, if you've actually got me, I was going to have a drink with Rodion, but it sort of hasn't really worked like that in the. But it's a very British thing to do.
Okay, well that's the best we're gonna. We got some combination here of Skype and Zoom. John, I think you can see. What are you seeing back from us? Are you seeing?
It's very scary. I can just see myself.
No, okay. Are you seeing the picture of you and Lily now?
I can now see Lily and myself.
Okay, good. Because I'm gonna go through some more slides now, and thank you for your report, Super Coach John Emmett, with your wife Lily, who is back. And the first thing I know a lot of people are going to ask is, what do you think? And I know there's some things you can comment on and some things you won't, but as goes Ukraine, so goes Taiwan.
Yeah, well, I think one of the problems is everybody sees the world through their eyes, and in the modern information age, that's really true. So when you have countries like China, Russia, they will be getting very different. The population will be presented from the home country very different information to what you would receive in, for example, the UK and the US. That's just the way it works. But there's a fundamental difference in belief. I mean, Putin believes that the Ukraine is I was going to say part of Russia, but for him, I think the big thing, he saw the breakup of the old Soviet Union as a terrible thing. So in his mind, he would definitely see it as reunification, if you can say such a thing. And you've got that situation that's gone on for so many years in such a complicated dynamic with Taiwan, which obviously, Taiwan sees itself as separate and China sees Taiwan as part of China. So I don't know how that's all going to play out. Certainly there's a precedent being set with how things are handled in Ukraine. And, I think a lot of people will be worried that whilst the West, as it were, is occupied with Ukraine, that China has a good opportunity to move on Taiwan, or at least they will see, how it plays out for Russia. Whatever happens, I think some people thought COVID was going to go away in
15 days. Yeah.
Well, yeah, in 3 months anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't believe people thought you just have to look at a history book, and I just really hope lessons are learned, because for sure there'll be another pandemic in 30, 40, 50, whatever timescale it is. It will happen again. But yeah, the situation is fundamentally differences of belief. So in coaching, I'm a huge fan of setting a precedent. Like the way you do things the first time is going to make a big difference to how you do things every time. People think it's just a training regatta, it's just a club race, it's just a training session. No, it's not. It's habit forming. So how the reaction and the long-term implications of this plays out will affect the rest of the world for decades to come. And certainly if there's Russia removed from sporting events or sanctions, I mean, that's going to be years and years and years.
John, I don't have a picture of both you and Julia and myself all in one frame, but tell us, if you would please, what are you're coaching athletes, or have been, from Finland. You are coaching athletes from Romania. I'm not sure where else. You're pouring yourself some beer there. What are you hearing from other Olympic athletes. And what's your feeling about all this in Europe?
I do pick them, don't I? So for me, I pick myself some fairly difficult working situations, but it's always about supporting athletes who you think deserve it. But yeah, I don't think I'll be that keen to to fly to Romania at the moment. So I'm literally just starting working with a young athlete called Abru, and like all foreign names, I've probably just murdered that. She'll kill me, but there we go. But yeah, Romania is, crikey, I should have checked the geography, but I guess it's about a quarter of the border with the Ukraine. You've got Poland and Bulgaria, and then to the north you've got Belarus, and to the east you've got Russia. So yeah, they're right there. And I've got Lodger at the farm who's Polish, and the tanks and stuff have been moving into the NATO countries to shore everything up. But I think if people didn't have mental health problems after COVID, I think they're going to find it really difficult with a war on. I mean, I often have the television on in the background, and it's just wall-to-wall bad news at the moment, which just isn't good for anyone. And you never quite know what to believe. I'm sure there's an awful lot of things going on in the background, which we will never know with the assassinations, the security forces, the Secret Services, all this stuff that you will never be aware of. And I think we have a responsibility to have a good day every day. And I hope sailing is I don't hope. I believe sailing is really good for people's mental health, and I will do my best in my day job to do that, because I think that's a really important thing.
Totally agree. And in fact, I saw, I'm not running it in today's show, I'll probably run it in the special Monday show, but Julia, there was an article I saw early this morning that said,
it did appear on the screen now.
Yeah, we've got you. It's not perfect, but it'll work. The article said that people who live near the seashore are healthier and happier. I don't think that's any surprise.
Yeah.
I think we want to get by the
Lily will
seashore.
be very happy with me if I get a house near the sea. I'm not quite sure how it's going to happen.
Where are you in Weymouth now? Where are you now?
This is what I affectionately refer to as Lily's flat, because it's where she started her management degree in Southampton. And then she told me that she didn't really want to do management. That's just what the leaders wanted her to do. So I said, well, what do you want to do? And she wanted to do sports media. So she ended up going to Solent University, which luckily is the flat is roughly halfway between the two. So it all worked out very well. And it has a very, very good local pub. And a nice big common for me to run around when I can't do anything else, and garage to put the boats and all the rest of it. So I will be very sad to say goodbye to the flat, because it's so much easier to get to London. Spurs is North London. I just spent a lot of time on a map trying to work out whether I went into the I think they call it the clean air zone or the ultra clear air zone in London, because I went to Bath to the cinema the other day and got a huge fine for driving my van somewhere I shouldn't.
What if I may ask, what does Lily say? What's Lily say about the Taiwan situation, China supporting Russia? What does she have any comments, or does she care to stay out of all that?
I don't think I think Lily's very trained not to think about it, if I dare say that. I mean, China will just not say anything. That's her perception.
Okay.
They won't say it's good, bad. They're cozy. They may well be able to buy some very, very cheap gas. And China's done very well over the past decades of keeping out of the wars and letting other people spend their money while the economy got better and better and better. But
well, you're a techno person. It's apparently anonymous. That hacking organization has declared war on Russia and Putin. I saw that. They may have quite an impact, actually. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, well, that's where the modern wars are fought. And I should have checked it, but there was a quote by a very famous person who said the World War IV is probably going to be fought with sticks and stones, which is fairly scary to think about. But yeah, that mask always reminds me of V for Vendetta, with I think it was Natalie Portman and Hugo Weaving, which I thought was a great film. but yeah, that's the way the
Jonathan
goes.
Frank is saying for her sake she should not say anything. I think
Absolutely. I think
that's probably right.
Well, I think that just in China again, you have a very different view, because if you're not used to having certain freedoms or whatever, you just accept that as normality. Because I was trying to get Lily to check how Croutonic my YouTube videos were, and she couldn't. And after a few months of that, you just sort of accept that that's the way it is, and you get on with your life. It's like Paralympians or anyone with an injury. If you lose an arm or a leg, you're very upset, you're very sad, but actually your level of happiness tends to reset far quicker than you would perhaps imagine.
Meaning lack of internet.
Well, any freedom, or you just accept, you just sort of accept your status.
Yeah.
After a while, and it's what you're used to. So people will see human rights and all these things very differently. And I said this is the fundamental problem. Russia considers that Ukraine was part of Russia, or I'm going to get the names wrong. And it's the same historically with Taiwan and all this. We had the argy-bargy situation when I was growing up. I don't know if you remember that with the Falklands. Sorry, phone.
That's the Putin calling, saying, "What are you doing talking about this with a seller?"
That's me cancelled.
On this hey, you're getting canceled by Putin. Stingray is saying the possible cyber war is almost as scary as a shooting war. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I just don't think it's going to be that big a deal. China's not happy about the price of oil rising due to the Ukraine crisis. Yeah. Let's talk about our sport, and particularly now, it's way too early to tell, John, but what about the rest of Europe? What about the EU? What about Denmark, Germany, and so on, the Low Countries, and particularly the Baltics? You've talked to anybody in the Baltics?
Finland and that would be very interested because of the proximity. But yeah, social media, it's like testing the water. So I've got friends, in Germany who have said, the Air Force are out doing full-on drills, and one of the lovely things about sailing, it's such an international sport.
Yes.
Such an international sport. I know people all over the world. So, when there was the protest going on in Hong Kong, I definitely didn't listen to the BBC or CCTV. I looked at the video that my friend posted, which he took with his own phone. And that was, that's how I took it. But there's a thing with sailing that a lot of people cause them self-stress by really worrying about the things that actually they have no control over. I think probably, and there was a chat on Road to Gold recently, one of the best or strongest mental person I've ever is Ben Ainsley. And you look at his Olympics and how, I think apart from one, he had a pretty terrible first day at every Olympics he did, and protest and disqualify and all this sort of thing. And he came back and he did a good job, and he's a legend in the sport. And I do think there's a danger in people having, sleep anxiety and all these sort of things about something which they just can't affect in their own life.
Well, I think that's good advice, and I've by discussing this, it actually reduces my stress. It helps my understanding. I hope it does for everybody else. We had a nice comment back here from Peter Stevenson, Julia, a minute ago, saying, you've got to talk about this stuff. Your comment about content, it's important that you cover other issues like COVID and invasion of other countries. It is shows like yours that keep us all informed for the well-being of all humanity. Well, wouldn't get too carried away, but it is nice to talk to our community of sailors.
Yes.
Pedro Foiling Sailor. Julia said, I think the same thing. Continue to stand up to the Croutonic critics. Ask John what his opinion, we have, of China's support of Russia. John, let's go segue to our sport. I don't know how long you can stay. It's not that late there. What time is it? 20?
I'm all good. I've said many times, I really like this time zone. And it gets so much more difficult when the clocks change. I'm back in Europe. That 2 hours later makes a big difference. Oh, that was mine. Yeah, you gotta have a sense of humor.
Yeah, you sent that, so I thought I'd stick that in here. No, we've never had Russian neighbors. You were the first. We've had Russian neighbors both in Germany and in Spain, and a lot of Russians across this country who are decent, proper people. And I'm sure this is not a war against Russian citizens,
yes.
Right, Julia?
Yes, I wish that would be become more and more clear, but I'm sure that's true.
Well, it's always the
I'm
case.
sure there's many Russian citizens who are pretty unhappy about the situation as well.
Absolutely.
You know,
Well, witness the protests we saw
mm.
overnight. Okay. John, can you stay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got my Stowford Press.
Okay,
I'm
so
very,
here
very
is
happy.
okay. So here is my my next segment, and we'll keep John on here. And this, of course, is the Correct or Croutonic segment. And I don't have any problem with putting this up there, but I think we have to deal with it. As you probably all saw, overnight, Poland, Czech Republic, Sweden have refused to go to Russia for the upcoming World Cup games. And we know that F1, after wringing their hands for 24 hours, they announced early this morning, our time, FIA Formula One World Championship visits countries all over the world with a positive vision to unite people, bringing nations together. We are watching the developments in Ukraine with sadness and shock and hope for a swift and peaceful resolution to the present situation. On Thursday evening, last evening, F1 and FIA and the teams discussed the position of our sport, and the conclusion is, including the view of all relevant stakeholders, that it is impossible to hold the Russian Grand Prix under the current circumstances. And you compare that, Julia and John, with this clownish statement that the IOC put out. It was so clownish, I'm not even going to run it. But there is a pretty serious implication here for our sport, because Nord Stream, the company that producing that pipeline, has a fleet of boats, and they're running races somewhere. And then we know that the Broninsek Gazprom team in the Super 52 Super Series, a team of Russian businessmen, he's an oligarch, Vladimir Broninsek joined the circuit in 2015 and made a very impressive debut, winning many races, and from the very outset proving themselves to be serious contenders, as well as organized as a well-organized and resourced group. And the gentleman is a significant sailing fan and races with his team on other circuits as well. And then the next slide I have here for your consideration is, as several of you have asked and suggested, is the Yacht Comanche, which is now owned by, it was American, then it was Australian, and now it is Russian-owned, and it's sailing as we speak, or did sail, in the Caribbean 600, and will be sailing presumably in the next series of races down there. And also Scorpios, the biggest monohull that's racing currently, is also Russian-owned. And I got this text last night from a Fozy, and I could probably identify, he can identify himself if he's on here. And tomorrow's show, you need to publicly shame Russia and all Russians. Comanche should be banished from international yacht racing. Scorpion should be banished from international yacht racing. I don't know what the CLGP, I guess SailGP, should not go to St. Petersburg. All of this should stop now. Russian should not be allowed in polite company, Russia. They should be mocked, and we should roll up all their children that are here studying in the U.S. and send them home, or send them at Kyiv. I don't think he means literally at Kyiv. And that is from a Fozy. So I put that to you, and it's a strongly held view by, I think, any number of people. Is it correct or croutonic? Should we be banning Russian entries? Should we reject entries of Russian, particularly the oligarchs, these rich guys, these billionaire, presumably friends of Vladimir Putin's? Or are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Are we going to take away the salaries, the jobs of a lot of non-Russian sailors who are staffing those boats, Kiwis, Aussies, Americans, Europeans? Is it correct or croutonic? Should we be rejecting those entries? And it was pretty strongly held language. We should be shaming, banishing. I mean, didn't use the word persecution, but that came to mind when I read it. What do you think, John?
Crikey, I think the problem is there's a tendency in modern society to try and make extremely complicated issues simple. So the first thing before that is I really hope the IOC will do something, but it's a very, very slow moving entity. But at the same time, there's 20 to 20 sorry, there's plenty of time to 20 to 24. I can't talk. That'll be the cider. I think we should probably just go down the line of not having events in Russia that Russia benefits from.
So you would hang on. So you would allow Comanche and Scorpios to keep sailing in that circuit?
I don't know. I think it's such a complicated thing. But I think the clear line is, you shouldn't be like the Formula One Grand Prix, and you shouldn't be hosting those events in Russia, and you definitely shouldn't be hosting them in places that Russia has taken over. I do hope the IOC will, step up, but it's just so complicated because how do you
John,
know?
John, hang on. You had a couple. You're relaxed. You're carrying on. And that's great to see and hear. But I just wanted, you would not ban Scorpios and Comanche from continuing to sail in the Caribbean in the regattas down there.
Not at this particular moment. I would want to give it some very, very serious thought.
Okay, Julia, what would you do?
I think there are opportunities to prove to peers in the sailing world that we're good guys, and that sailing has a place in the life of the international set. And
what are you saying? Say it. Should we ban? Yes or no? Should we ban Scorpios? And you're as bad as Emmett. Should we ban Scorpios and Comanche? John is saying let them keep sailing. He wants to think about it.
Yeah, I want to say we really understand what good relations are, and we appreciate good talent. And
yes or no? Would you ban Scorpios and Comanche from continuing to sail? We got
right now, no.
You would. Okay, let's see what the Fozy are saying, because there's probably a split opinion here. Greg Phillips is saying we should ban them and all other Russian sailors. Hamish Ross, guys, would you let SS members off the hook because they employ nice people? Meaning the World War II Nazi SS. Wise words, Julia. Gordon Smith, I think, with Julia and John, not too rough too soon. Fritz Mueller says that would be croutonic and reactionary. Governments do very stupid things in spite of their citizens. The danger is when citizens become public. So I think you got Fritz Mueller with you. Puppets. Sorry. Thank you, Julia. Alan Long, James Frederick Bland, peer pressure, group punishment works great in the armed forces. Blake is agreeing with you, John, about the complexity versus simplicity. Don't just run off and ban them. J. Frederick Bland, feckless IOC couldn't even ban a drug-using skater. Yeah, okay. Clark Chapin.
That again is a very complicated issue that hasn't played out and is yet to be resolved, and that's been really badly reported on social media.
The drug ban. I
it's
agree.
Not that they haven't been banned; it's that it hadn't gone through due process by the time the event started, which is a really different thing.
Copy. John, reduce your headspace a little bit, please. Move your.
You're asking me to get.
Yeah, make yourself look. Yeah, put your head up at the top.
Lily's been asking me to do this for 10 years.
Well, we can give her a few tips. Yeah.
There you go.
Work her seat.
Clark Chapin is saying the latest round of U.S. sanctions have probably already affected the owners of Comanche and Scorpios. Yeah, okay, maybe. Mm-hmm. Rick Hayes says it's hypothetically correct to ban them, but it's not serious. Clayton Allen Embley is saying they should be rejected, and the sailors on those boats should ask themselves where are their moral compass points. And Stingray saying most Russian sailors probably have nothing to do with the freaking invasion. So I think he's with you, John and Julia. I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just trying to get people to say what they mean and mean what they say. Jonathan Frank says it's croutonic. Not only croutonic, it's detrimental to our sport. Interesting. Thank you, Jonathan Frank. Jonathan Frank, I don't know where you are, but he just flew a 777 from, I think, Newark to New Delhi, which must have gone over Russia and over that part of the world.
Wow.
And he was
not going to be doing that anymore.
Yeah, well, and he also took a picture. I saw Jonathan Frank of the Northern Lights over Finland. So he must have been flying up almost the polar route. Alan Long is saying, I remember in '68 the protests of the Russians entering Prague, setting themselves on fire. I was 15. I will never forget. This is correct to ban them, he's saying. And J. Frederick Bland saying group punishment is a strong weapon. Greg Phillips, we already mentioned. Okay, any other comments? Paul Homchick. Yeah, answer the question, Julia. Don't beat around the bush. Pedro Flying Sailor Peter Stevenson say.
But what do you think? You haven't.
Well, I don't. I'll tell you all when we get everybody else's view. The oligarchs are political appointments and get payoffs to project power. So ban them. Baton Rouge, Ken is saying in Charleston. Paul Homchick here in the Bay Area. The people that own these boats are most likely Putin cronies who have serious money from looting Russia. Ban them. Okay. Those weren't Northern Lights.
That's quite a big assumption.
Well,
which is well above my pay grade.
Chris Exley is saying there's another opinion. Correct. Deny the oligarchs any sort of glory. Well, I agree. It's a hard question. Here's what I believe. I don't think, as you know, Julia, as you know, John, I am a de Tocquevillian. I believe in local control, decentralized control. Excuse me. I should use my cough switch. It's still coming through on your mic, but at least I'll turn mine off. I don't believe in the World Sailing Federation, World Sailing taking a position. I think the maxi class has to deal with this on their own terms. And if the IMA, it'll be interesting to see what our FOSI, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin has to say about this and the decision they take. They're closer to it. They understand how many of the sailors are this and whether these guys are oligarchs and whether they're crooks or whether they're simple, human beings who are going to be really hurt if they can't go sailing their big expensive boats, their toys. And I don't believe in a broad brush. I don't think the EU or the US or the IOC or anybody. I'd let local classes, local clubs, let the RORC deal with this on their own terms. And if the RORC decides to ban them, fine. If somebody else decides to let them sail because they think, let's see how that all goes. That's the way I look at things. And I wouldn't, if I were running a regatta now and I checked these guys out and thought they were crooks and Putin cronies, I'd probably ban them if I were the organizing committee or on the organizing committee of a regatta. But I don't know. And I don't know who these guys are. The same with the 52 Super Series guy. If he is, you have to go look individually. Maybe you let that guy because he's not a crook. Maybe the RC-44 guys, I'm not saying they are, maybe they are crooks.
Yeah.
And maybe the Comanche guy is and the Scorpios guy is not. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's how. Ask Ed Worley's saying, ask the owners to publicly condemn the invasion.
That's tough to do.
J. Frederick Bland is disagreeing with me, saying, tell that to the dead in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Replying to Andy McNabb, Andy McNabb is saying if the individual is sanctioned, then they should not be allowed to participate. Now, that's an interesting point. Good point, Andy. If they are not sanctioned, meaning by the West, by the U.S. and the EU and NATO, then it's up to them individually to compete or not. That's fair. That sounds fair. Probably a good point. Well, that's why we have the FOSI. The FOSI are a smart bunch of people.
Indeed.
On here. John, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, there are some things to me which are much more black and white. So if Russia's hosting events or they're gaining a lot from sponsoring events, you can clearly see that those things should be withdrawn because that's black and white. I think the things that are in a grey area need to have really careful consideration because, again, you're setting a precedent. And this is something that's not going to go away. This is something that's going to go on for a long time now, and the ramifications of it are going to go on for an even longer time. So I think that the situations which are black and white should be resolved as quickly as possible. And I think the more complex matters, and I wouldn't want to be Andrew at the moment, they do need really careful thought because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, Alan Long is saying, okay, Tom, so get Scorpios and the Comanche syndicates on the 500 show. And as you may remember, Julia and John, I asked when we had Andrew McIrvin on live from the end of the Transat, the RORC Transat, remember the kid was there, the son of, I guess, the owner of Scorpios, I think it was. Yeah. And I said, hey, can we get him or his dad on the show and talk about it? Probably can't now. This is what 40 million Russians died fighting against. Yeah, okay. But again, I think we have to be a little more surgical than just painting with a broad brush here. And I think most of us agree with that. But having said that, if these guys are oligarchs, if they're buddies of Putin's and they're croutons and they're crooks, then I, as race by race, regatta by regatta, wouldn't fuss me to ban them.
Yeah.
And shame them. Anything else, John?
No, so I think there's a lot of things which are, above your pay grade, and I'm sure there's a lot of things going on in the background that we don't know anything about. I mean, when you look at the banking clearing system and things like that, I mean, you'd need to have a lot of financial knowledge to know exactly who it's going to affect and how it's going to affect them.
Exactly. Well, you know me, it may or may be well above my pay grade, but I'm rarely in there, hopefully rarely in there, maybe often in there, but never in doubt.
I mean, this started a long time ago in
Julia, spin yourself to your left a little bit, and then I can go to that shot.
I mean, this started a long time ago in sort of 2019 when some of the military aid was withheld from Ukraine, and there was an impeachment about that and all sorts. And I think perhaps the door got left open, and the horse is well and truly out now, and it's a mess. Whatever happens, it's a mess.
Let's see what other. We'll wrap this up, and then we're going to go cover some Bravo Zulus about our sport, not having to do with this madness. Stingray replying to Hamish, after World War I, we crushed Germany too hard, it led to World War II. Well, maybe. We need to be careful of the Russia too. Yeah, okay. You're looking askance at that, John, or is your neck crooked like mine?
My neck is a mess. I'm trying to do it when I'm off camera, but I think I'm
okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to catch you. At least you weren't picking your nose. Judge the owners, because if you were, I'd for sure get you. I'd go right back to you. No, I'm kidding. Judge the owners by what they do and not group them with others they may not be affiliated with, which they may not be affiliated. I agree, Ed Worley. I think everybody agrees with that. Andrew Dolly DeVola. Hey, Andrew Dolly DeVola is back on here. He's had some serious surgery. Andrew, I hope you're doing well. Obviously well enough to be on here. You only get that rich in Russia if you are in bed with Putin. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, too.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Aarons, sports shouldn't be political, but in the current climate, everything is political. That is a good...
Yes.
That's a good one to sum it up on, right?
I'm
Julie
afraid
Aarons,
so.
I'm afraid she's absolutely correct. Thank you, Julie, for that. And with that, we will end this segment and move forward with John. Stay with us for this next segment because it's apropos what we're talking about now. I couldn't help myself. Do you know what happened on this day, the 25th of February, in 1991?
Oh, I should remember that.
Now, this is pretty obscure, but it's apropos what we're talking about, and I thought I'd stick it in here since it did happen. There's your first clue. I should have done this with Rodion on.
Yeah.
You know what that is? That is the coat of arms, the seal. Recognize the flags of those countries? Albania, Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm.
If Krasimir is still on here, he'll recognize that. That is the emblem of the Warsaw Pact.
Ah, yes.
The Warsaw Pact, the Iron Curtain. And Romania and Albania were kind of satellite members of that, no pun intended. Vladimir started riding horses, Stingray is saying. On this day in history, the Warsaw Treaty Organization, otherwise known as the Warsaw Pact, disbanded in 1991. The also known as the Warsaw Pact was a political military alliance, as you all know, established in 1955 between the Soviet Union and several Eastern European countries. The Soviet Union formed this alliance as a counterbalance to NATO, a collective security alliance, as you all know, concluded between the U.S., Canada, and Western Europe in 1949. On this day in 1991, the Warsaw Pact was declared disbanded at a meeting of defense and foreign ministers from remaining Pact countries meeting in Hungary. On July 1st in Prague, the President Václav Havel formally ended the Warsaw Treaty Organization of Friendship, Cooperation, Mutual Assistance, and so disestablished, I love that word, disestablished the Warsaw Treaty after 36 years of military alliance. The USSR disestablished itself, according to Wikipedia, in 1991. So I thought that was interesting that that happened on this day. And John, as you predicted the date of the invasion, the start of the war, almost to the day. You may have been off by a day. But this time in history means a lot, apparently, to Putin and his cronies. And, of course, it was after the Olympics as well, but February means a lot. And I think Putin, sorely misses the Warsaw Pact and the Soviet Union, and maybe he is crazy enough to be trying to reestablish it.
Well, with the Winter Olympics, I'm sure he didn't want to upset China.
Yeah.
By taking the focus off Beijing Games.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope this is Julia, John. I hope everybody else that's on here. I hope this is going to all be gone by Easter, like COVID was going to be. I'm afraid it's not, and I'm afraid that the COVID cretonicism is going to carry over for some period of time and affect all of us and our beloved sport. I think that's the only conclusion I can reach today. John, Julia?
I just wish there were a clear way to fix things right now, but it doesn't seem to be.
Well, there's not. John, last thoughts?
Well, nothing special. I think we've said it. We've said it all, and I just hope people can focus on their sailing and look after themselves and each other, because mental health is going to be pretty important going forward. Yeah,
indeed. Gordon Smith is saying, in 1996, I presented at the Russian Transport University in Moscow about the profit motive in developing organizations. So odd to see a dollar sign on a PowerPoint under the hammer and sickle above the stage. John, thank you very much indeed.
Indeed.
We'll talk soon. Thanks for your continuing reports. They may be the most popular thing on this show, besides Julia.
Did I miss something as well at the start when you said when the 500th show was?
500th show is Monday. We're doing a special show on Monday, and it's your favorite topic. It's the Kiwi home defense and the America's Cup venue. We're going to dedicate the whole show to that. They're doing this massive PR campaign. And we're going to do that show on Monday so that people not interested in the Cup don't have to tune in. That will be show number 500. And then we'll do back to our regularly scheduled programming on Tuesday and Friday.
I might be seeing you quite drunken after dinner then.
3 shows next week. Yeah. Thanks, John. Take good care.
Thank you.
Ciao. John Emmett, our regular correspondent, mostly on the Olympics, but he's very well connected. And Andrew Pindar is also very well connected. I appreciate the insights I've had from Pindar over the last little bit here. What are you laughing about? Is there some more copies? Some more?
Blake Middleton's.
What did Middleton say? Apologies, John, but yes, you are the second most popular thing on the show after Julia.
Oh, I love you, Blake, but even if it's not true.
And signing off, thanks, Fritz Mueller. Humans are so self-destructive, yet I'm optimistic. Okay, let's carry on here. I've got the Cup segment, and actually, I've got a fair few really good videos. This is why we're going to do 3 shows this coming week. There's so much stuff ramping up besides all this madness in Ukraine and hopefully not beyond Ukraine, but in Europe. But ETNZ announced their core sailing team yesterday, actually. I think it was yesterday or the day before. The core sailing team consists of 6 key sailors led by skipper Peter Burling, who is joined by Blair Tuke, Andy Maloney, Nathan Outeridge, Glenn Ashby, and Josh Jr., whose focus will be on the performance and development of the boat, along with the all-important strategical decision making during the 37th America's Cup, that group.
Wow, what a group.
It is quite a group. It's nice to see Pete and Blair back with them. The complete sailing team will be further bolstered at a later date when the Powerhouse Grinders, or Cyclors, because they're allowing cycling again, will begin full-time training to provide the power for the 3rd generation of ACs. You're going to say something.
I hate to see that.
I know. I think a lot of us do. Emirates Team New Zealand COO, the Chief Operating Officer, Kevin Shoebridge, is a really good guy, has been a key proponent in putting together one of the strongest lineups in the team's history. Quote, clearly we are very happy to have the depth of talent that we have in the sailing team right now. The strength of our core sailing team is clear to see. There aren't many things in sailing that haven't been achieved by this group of guys collectively, said Shoebridge. Quote, after the finish of the last America's Cup, we had an extensive and robust review of the winning campaign, and now we can become stronger. Ultimately, all aspects of the organization must improve if we are to be successful again in AC37, and collectively improving our sailing team as a unit, as an important aspect of this. And that press release actually went on. And there was more stuff like that that was kind of his, kind of little, not much meat, a lot of sizzle. But here was a cool video I thought you would all enjoy from the aforementioned Blair and Pete.
Kia ora whanau. After a successful 2021 where we helped to defend the America's Cup, won another Olympic silver medal and established the New Zealand Sail GP team, we've taken time to evaluate the next steps and we're excited with what's coming up.
Today we're excited to announce that we'll be part of Emirates Team New Zealand for the 37th America's Cup, as well as continuing to lead the New Zealand Sail GP team and support the great work happening at Live Ocean.
After 13 or so years in the 49er, we've decided to hang up the kit for now. It's been an incredible journey. We've loved every minute of it, representing Aotearoa on the world stage, Olympic Games, world champs, but it feels like the time's right. It's not retirement, we'll never say never, but for now we're looking forward to supporting the next group of sailors as they head towards Paris 2024.
We're really excited about getting into this next phase of our careers, and we know that the America's Cup and Sail GP will complement each other incredibly well. Thanks to everyone for the support, in particular those that have been on our Olympic journey. We're really looking forward to this next phase and can't wait to get into it.
Okay, nice video. And a couple pieces of news there. Obviously, they have re-signed, not resigned, but re-signed.
I know.
Remember somebody said, oh, they've resigned.
I know.
They've re-signed with ETNZ. But more importantly, well, not more importantly, that's the big news, but also they're done with the Olympics. No surprise. They had, what, silver, was it in the 49er? Silver last time and gold time before that for sure. And they're done. They're going to pursue this, plus their Sail GP team, plus their foundation, which is an environmental foundation. So bravo Zulu to them. Now, the question I ask you all, and there's been a lot of speculation about this. I don't know. I haven't even had a one hears, but do you think this means with both Pete and Nathan Outeridge on the team, and Glenn Ashby for that matter, but presumably Glenn will be calling tactics and flying, be the pilot flying the ride height or whatever. Do you think they're going to a two? You look askance.
I could.
Huh?
I was wondering what you're going to say.
You were wondering where I was going.
Yeah.
Well, it's not dirty. You keep your fingers down on the desk.
I didn't think it was
Do
dirty.
you think these guys are going to have, that is ETNZ, a two-helm system like Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli did in the last Cup? What do you think, Julia?
Maybe too early to ask.
Why is it too early? They'd be signing guys up if that's what they intend. No, they could change their mind, of course. But do you think they've signed up both Nate and Pete because they think they might be wanting to try that and do that? What do our Fozzie think?
I don't know.
Well, let's see. You're watching the comments. Two helmsmen. James Bland is saying one on each side. Stingray, yes, they will twin helm like LRPP. Two-boat training, Ed Worley. They can't two-boat train, except they can in the 40s. Now, that's a good point. They can have two 40s.
Yeah.
Pete and Nath at the helm. Emmett is asking. Silver, gold, silver. Thank you, John Emmett, confirming that. Blake Middleton, very nice video with those two NZ legends. Totally agree.
Yep.
Did I miss any comments before that, Julia? Alan Long, in replying to Gordon Smith, where's that pub? He wants to stop by.
Right.
This is a sailing show with a drinking problem. Okay, any other comments before we leave this topic? If you ever wanted to go to dual helmsman, those are the two you would want, not Slingsby. Julie Aarons, you are on thin ice, Tom. I'm always on thin ice, Julia. Come on. Come on. New Zealand is a family as much as a team. It's time for younger sailors to go to the Olympics. They signed Nathan as one of the best in the business. I totally agree. He's one of the best in the business. I'm glad they signed him. And it will be interesting. Bravo Zulu to them and to the team.
Does this tell us anything about the venue?
Well, that's an interesting point because these guys are, and you've seen that comment. We ran that on the show.
Yeah.
These guys said something publicly about not wanting to go to Jeddah.
Yeah.
Stingray told me when he saw this a day or so, he may have sent me the first. I mean, I get this from everybody. Everybody, thank you all that send us links and stories. But you can't say Glenn Outeridge. Pay attention to what you're saying. Not complaining. Hard job with a drinking problem. Did I say Glenn Outeridge? Okay, I didn't. Obviously, I didn't mean Glenn. I mean Glenn Ashby. Thank you. But regardless, these guys, or at least I think it was Pete, I can't remember who it was, said, we don't want to go to Jeddah. They said it publicly. So maybe they know something we don't know, that it is not going to Jeddah. One can only hope. But we'll know more about that, I think, in the next 30 days. And we're going to talk extensively about that on our special 500th show on Monday, Julia.
Yes.
Two Helms, Jibo is saying, Two Helms, they don't need two boat program. They have a digital twin to match race against. Yeah, but I think the 240s they may be helming. Ed Worley, extra helmsman and crew to assist developing the new boat and going sail GP. Yes, that's a good point. John Emmett replying to Julia, it is always the time for the best sailors to go to the Olympics. Julie Aarons is saying it will not be Jeddah. Okay. Okay, there's also a really nice video from Ineos Britannia about one of their key people. Have a look at this.
I'm Ingrid Salisbury. I'm lead modelling and software engineer at Ineos Britannia. I think the interesting part of it is the high-performance engineering. I think whether it's an F1 car or a boat, that part is what fascinates me. Different groups, aerodynamic groups, hydrodynamic groups, build models and look in detail at that part of the boat. Our role in the modelling is to bring together models of all these different things to build a complete simulation of the boat. The challenge is getting the information from different groups, putting it all together, making a model that is high fidelity enough to capture all the physical characteristics such that we can make design and performance decisions from that. And I think one of our big challenges is we can follow the theory and build this theoretically great model, but it might not be correlated with what we see in reality, and that is the big challenge, is capturing the reality. I think for us, the key moment will be getting the boat on the water and getting that real-world data and seeing how well we've been able to predict the behaviour and the performance of the boat. We're building a lot on last campaign's boat, looking at the data from that, but with new designs, new foil designs, new sail designs, it is still quite unknown. What I love about my job is getting to work with very competitive, very passionate, very motivated people, because those kind of people, they push really hard, which makes me push really hard. And because they are so passionate about what they do, it inevitably makes it more emotive, and personalities clash, people debate things, and it's through that that you achieve much better things than you would just sort of going with the flow. And I think that it's quite an emotional atmosphere, but a very motivated one, and that's the best part for me.
I totally agree, and I wish the music were a little bit better, but I think she's a very attractive and bright personality, yes. And the thing she said about the cool thing about being on America's America's Cup team is being with bright, motivated people. I mean, you know that from your professional career, right, and all the stuff you've done over the many years. It was a nice video. We're going to talk about the venue on Monday. We have a fair bit of new venue news, and one hears and various implications. I'm not going to talk more about it now because we're in 2 hours into the show. But these guys are not giving up. They're, in fact, I think, raising Julie Aarons. You probably don't want to hear this, but I think they are raising the ante, and we'll see what happens going forward. But on Monday, we will talk about it. Next week, 3 shows. A special Monday 500th edition of this show featuring the Kiwi Home Defense, and we'll have a forum. We'll have a Zoom forum like we've done several times in the past, with or without cocktails. This is a drinking show with a sailing crowd. Did you see that?
Yes.
Croutons. But we'll do that next week. Special 500th show on Monday, regular time, and also our Tuesday and Friday shows, because there is so much going on now in our beloved sport. Plus, we're going to keep covering the situation in Europe and sincerely hope it does not turn into bloody World War III.
Keep thinking that wiser minds must prevail.
Well, I don't know. This guy, if he's a madman, we got a problem.
Not if he disappears.
He isn't going to disappear. He's going to. All those shows will be at our normal 2000 UTC, 1200 Pacific until we go on daylight savings time here in a few weeks, middle of March already. Thanks to Rodion and Luka for joining us. Look, I'm not going to run them now because I said we're 2 hours in, but I do have some great videos. The RORC, bless their hearts, are continuing to do terrific work. I've got three, not one, not two, but three different videos from the RORC, from the Caribbean 600, the finish of that race. Oh. We now know who won overall, and there's a great video of that. I'm not going to play those now because, I mean, it's another half an hour of content.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can all do without that. But Bravo Zulu to everybody involved down there, from our FOSI, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, everyone else involved in the RORC, and all the owners and the clubs and so on, because it has been a terrific event, including Scorpios and including Comanche, and I don't know who all else. And there's a comment here, oh my, Julie, if he disappears. There's a drone with Putin's name on it, J. Frederick Bland is saying. Yeah, I don't know. The problem, of course, is worrying about is the risk of nuclear war.
Yes.
Right, John Emmett? John's, yes, he's there. He's still there watching. So that's what we're worried about. I'm not going to talk more about this race. I'm going to click through the slides that I will show. But, I mean, this is the overall winner. And there's a great video about them. This is Christopher Sheehan's Pact 52 Warrior 1, WON. And the prize giving is today. It's probably already taken place or is taking place as we speak. And we'll cover all that most likely on our Tuesday. In fact, it will be on our Tuesday show. And I've also on the Tuesday show, we're going to talk about the offshore, this initiative that's going on. A guy called Tom Hansen, whom I've only briefly talked with. But Chris Exley, who is our FOSI, he's probably on here watching, has teed that up. And we have talked. I've got a promotional segment that I'll run on the Monday special edition on the 500 show with Chris about the segment we're going to run on Tuesday's show. And it is really cool stuff. So with that, we'll also say Bravo Zulu. This one piece of it's really coming up in a month's time. We've got Sail GP here. In 2 months' time, we've got Congressional Cup down in Long Beach. The field has now been set for the 57th Congressional Cup, the 19th through the 23rd of April. It's the oldest continuously held match race event in the world, as you all know. Notes the chair for this year, Lisa Meyer. This regatta pioneered the concept of on-the-water umpiring and set the standard for top-level match racing. And the list of past winners reads like a who's who of America's Cup champions. Taylor Canfield returns with Team Stars and Stripes USA to defend their championship title. Canfield's 5-win record, which is impressive, 2014, 15, 16, 18, and last year, 2021, makes him the most triumphant skipper in Congo Cup history. Eager to knock him off his throne will be Ian Williams of GBR, returning after sitting out last year due to pandemic travel complications. We're really excited, he says, to return after 3 long years' absence. Williams, whose stellar record includes 4 bullets, 11, 12, 17, and 19 in 10 years of Congressional Cup racing. And Julia, as you know, he is sponsored or has been sponsored by Andrew Pindar, by our good FOSI and friend. So it's nice to see him back. The rivalries don't stop there. Last year's runner-up, Johnny Berntsen from Sweden, who was the 09 champion, is eager to contend in his 14th Congressional Cup, Con Cup. Harry Price, whose parents are often on here watching. Harry's a FOSI, his sister Olivia, and mom and dad have been on the show. Chris Poole and Nick Egnott Johnson, who's also been on the show. Nick E.J. from from New Zealand. They joined the roster. They've been selected. And 2 more sailors to be named, making their Congressional Cup debuts although they couldn't be more dissimilar. Now, those 2 to be named are the winners and runner-up of the Ficker Cup.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And that's how Jeffrey Peterson got, our FOSI got chosen last year. Pearson Potts steps up after 2 appearances at the Ficker Cup qualifier. He'll be in for sure, the 29-year-old from New Orleans. Southern Yacht Club shares first, he's been on the show, first-timer distinction with LBYC's own staff Commodore, past Commodore of Long Beach Yacht Club, Dave Hood, who at age 64 has 2 decades of racing on the Cat 37s and will vie for the Congressional Cup for the first time. So he's been selected by the club to represent them. The final 2 contestants will advance from Ficker Cup, as we said, which is just the weekend before Congressional Cup. So there's your lineup. It's a great group. We will be doing some work leading up to Congressional Cup, and I think it's going to be a particularly exciting event, and I'm sure James Pleasance agrees. James is another Fozy who's been on the show several times.
Yes. He's done such a good job with
World Match Racing Tour. Yes, I still have a WMA. I do have a WMRT sticker over here on my personal set. But James, we got to get him back on the show leading up to Congressional Cup. As one of the founding events of the WMRT, the Congressional Cup has always been one of the most sought-after events to win by match racing teams all over the world, noted James, who is the WMRT executive director. Quote, "We are delighted for the Congressional Cup to be the curtain raiser for the 2022 WMRT and look forward to joining everyone at LBYC again in April." The rest of James's schedule, Ficker Cup, Congressional, these are full group of events, and we hope they're all happening, including the Shenson Bao Match Race Cup at the end, the final, which has been postponed from this year because of the bloody COVID, and hopefully that will happen. Event 19 there at the end. And that Long Beach Yacht Club, we will kick it all off, the 57th Congressional Cup, 19 to 23 of April. That brings us to our D block and Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and some submissions from the Fozy. I love this one, Julia. This is clean. Operating a boatyard forklift. Is that what this sign means? Yeah. Operating a boatyard forklift looks like fun. Caution pedestrians. That's macabre. Somebody's macabre. So a neighbor, you all make fun of me playing the banjo, although I don't very often. So a neighbor knocked on my front door at 3 a.m. 3 a.m.? Luckily, I was already up playing the bagpipes. One of you sent that in, and as usual, Ted Ryman wins the prize for the best one. Soup of the day, whiskey with H2O crouton.
Lovely.
Thanks, Ted Ryman, for that. Finally, we're to the finish line, and I just want to say, apropos the timing as we go forward in March, I am a big opponent of daylight savings time springing forward, falling back. It is happening here again in the Northern Hemisphere on the 3rd, or at least in the U.S. rather, on the 13th of March. We go on daylight savings time. It's good for us because I don't have to put this show on until 1 o'clock daylight time instead of 12 noon the way it's been since, November. So I get an extra hour in the morning to put it together. But on the other hand, this change back and forth, flipping and flopping, there's a petition out, a change.org petition, which I have signed. I encourage those of you in the States to do it. During the week after the shift to DST, that's not just in this country, but research shows an associated rise in cardiovascular disease with a 24% higher risk of heart attacks, injuries, including a 6% spike in fatal car accidents, stroke rate, which increases by 8%. That probably happens just after this show. Mental health and cognitive issues with an 11% spike in depressive episodes, digestive and immune-related diseases such as colitis, which increased by 3% in females over the age of 60. Our internal clocks regulate processes including liver function, the immune system, and our body's physiology, which means any disruption can have significant effects. According to a 2008 U.S. Department of Energy report, on the other hand, the energy savings from switching between daylight savings time, or summertime as you call it most of the rest of the world, and standard time were negligible, especially in this day with air conditioning. Daylight savings time, therefore, no longer serves us any purpose. That's my rant. I firmly believe that we should end March Madness and the fall back madness when we go off daylight savings time, whether in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, or so I do firmly believe. I hope we end it once and for all. at least in our country. What the hell you all do in your countries is up to you. Regardless, we will go live with daylight time or not at 2000 UTC. You figure it out. And Stingray, I don't care if they go forward 30 minutes. I don't care if they go backwards. I don't care what we do. Just don't change it. Leave it. Morris Stevens, daylight savings time. It is like those who do it all get jet lag all at once. It's about time we get rid of it. Ed Worley agrees. Blake Middleton, I believe we should end the fallback half hour. Well, yeah, I don't care. Whichever. And I know Clark Chapin doesn't agree. Ralph Roberts, sorry to hear the passing of our friend. Oh, did he die? Oh, my goodness. I didn't know that. Sorry to hear that. Ken Ryan, who's one of the guys that helped us pioneer, he was chairman of the Judges Committee. And Ralph Roberts, who's a senior serious guy in New Zealand, I had not heard that about Ken Ryan in Ireland, and was longtime Secretary General of the Irish Olympic Federation. He was a Finn sailor and a longtime world sailing, when it was IWARU and ISAF official. And as I said, helped us get umpiring off the ground back in the late 80s. So sorry to hear that, and thanks, Ralph, for reporting that. Back to daylight savings time. Let's get rid of it. And I'm going to keep pushing for it. And you do what you want in your countries. Regardless, we will always go live at 2000 UTC. People seem to be happy with that, Julia.
Yes.
Right?
The alternative is never keep a regular schedule.
Well, it's just with other countries going, and Europe goes on at a different time than we do, and they go off at a different time.
But individuals do too.
And the Southern Hemisphere is going off, and we're going on, but not at the same time, and vice versa. And it's total confusing. 2000 UTC is our time. Thanks to Luka, Rodion, I'm going to call Luka. Rodion and Luka. It was very interesting to have him on in the Luka 30.
It was, and he was wonderful.
He was indeed. And also, Julia, it is now your witness.
Yes. Don't lose the opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Speaking of liking and following, also thanks to John Emmett, who is still with us. Good night, John. Have another pop for us. Thank you for sticking with us. Thanks for coming on live. We really do appreciate it. Also, comments are always welcome. We get hundreds of comments on here, and it's very gratifying and very informative. I think we all feel with this wonderful community of sailors, left, right, and center politically and all over the globe. It's just a terrific group. Joe Holtzman is on again. Another great show. Thank you, Joe. Blake Middleton, my main reason to stay on daylight yachting, daylight savings time, is that the majority of our outside activities are in the evenings after work. But again, you can adjust that. Clark Chapin, I could support staying on daylight savings time all year round, but I wouldn't be happy about sunrise not occurring until almost 9 a.m. in December. Well, Clark, that's because you guys in Michigan should be on Central Time. You're on New York time because of the railroads.
Right.
Do what you want. Let the states decide it. Let the countries decide it. Right, Julia?
Right.
Support us on Patreon if you would, please. We got a new patron this week.
Yay.
And we really appreciate it. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us $5 a month, and it does help keep the show on the road. Julia, last comment?
It is. I wish us all peace.
God forbid. God forbid this thing goes. I just hope this.
Yeah.
Christopher Gillingham is still with us. He was one of the first guys on. Sternstein as well. Great show, Fair Winds and Following Seas. And you were saying, Julia?
It doesn't matter.
Well, God forbid this thing goes into a real shooting.
Yeah,
it's bad enough that it's in Ukraine and what's going on. Those poor people being invaded.
I know.
And the Russians, normal run-of-the-mill Russians who can't understand why they can't have a proper democracy or just even a proper country where the standard of living can be raised and people.
Right.
The money is going to raise the standard of living for all Russian citizens, not just for the oligarch friends of Mr. Putin. Thanks to everybody who gave us visual material and audio for today's show. Hope to see you on Monday. Next week, 3 shows. Monday, a special show number 500. It will not be black tie, as some of you suggested. That's too much. Kiwi Home Defense will be featured. We're going to tell you all the reasons why, and I'm sure that Julie Aaron's will really appreciate this show. All the reasons why it should be in New Zealand and the big PR push that they're making. One last effort, or yet another effort to keep it there. And it'll be a FOSI forum via Zoom. If you want to come on, join us in Zoom. I'll give you the Zoom details in due course. Join us, come on, talk about what's going on. Tell us how to improve the show. Tell us what's good about it. Tell us what's bad. I'm not sure we'll do another 500 shows, but at least we'll do a few more. And next week, Tuesday and Friday, shows number 501 and 502, God and the Internet willing, at the regular times, all three of those shows. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you're with the ones you love. Hope you're staying safe, especially those of you in Ukraine and in Central and Eastern Europe. In the meantime, see you on Monday. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Yes, Stingray and everyone else, the shows, all of them will be on Facebook and on YouTube in the usual way. All 4 channels, all our usual channels. Thanks for asking.